Las Vegas was supposed to be the end. The track was a skating rink. The car was falling apart. McLaren launched a political attack. The FIA admitted weakness in the rules. And Max Verstappen's engineering brain trust, 3 of his 4 senior engineers, were walking away at season's end. 49 points behind Lando Norris, 83 points left, 9 points away from championship elimination. Everything that could go wrong had gathered around him like a storm. But here's what nobody expected. Max didn't fight the storm. He walked straight through it, calm, precise, and unstoppable. So how did the man who was supposed to lose everything in Vegas finish 20 seconds ahead of his rival? And why does Norris still hold all the cards despite finishing second? Verstappen came to Vegas carrying weight no champion should have to carry mid-season. The RB21 had become unpredictable. One session it responded, the next it shut down completely. Max described qualifying as driving on ice, with visibility so compromised that pushing felt borderline impossible. For a driver who refuses to accept anything less than pole, hearing him say, "It's fine like this," after finishing 3/10 behind Norris was the first alarm bell. Laurent Mekies admitted Red Bull thought pole was coming after Q2. They believed Max had the lap, but timing fell apart. Tire cooling didn't work, and traffic blocked the final push. Norris hit the window. Max missed it, but the danger wasn't just the car. McLaren attacked Red Bull with a cost cap question at the exact moment silence was needed most. Was Verstappen's Brazil engine change performance-based rather than reliability-based? The FIA's response was terrifying. There is a weakness in the rules. The loophole exists. Works teams can receive engines free. Customer teams have to pay out of their cost cap. Red Bull called the move defendable. Marco said it's not a gray area. But none of that mattered. The controversy was alive. The timing was brutal. And the distraction was massive. And then there was the collapse inside the garage itself. 3 of Verstappen's 4 senior engineers, his performance engineer, his engine engineer, his control engineer, were leaving at the end of the year, 2 of them joining rival teams. The people who translated his driving instincts into engineering reality were disappearing. Max was fighting Norris. Red Bull was fighting McLaren's lawyers. And the foundation beneath him was fracturing. This wasn't just a race. This was survival. The lights went out. And within seconds, everything changed. Lando Norris attempted a highly defensive maneuver into turn 1. Aggressive, bold, and designed to shut the door on Verstappen before the race even began. It was the kind of move Michael Schumacher once used. But it revealed something more dangerous than aggression, the psychological weight of the championship fight. Norris focused on closing the door instead of hitting the correct braking point. He carried too much speed, missed the apex entirely, slid across the runoff area. In one corner, Norris surrendered not only the lead to Verstappen, but also second place to George Russell. Pole position to third place in 3 seconds. For Verstappen, the moment couldn't have been more significant. Once he secured clean air, the nature of the race transformed. He no longer needed to overtake, react, or improvise. He could settle into rhythm, manage tire temperatures, and dictate the tempo. Russell attempted to stay close during the early phase, but Verstappen built a small yet meaningful margin that allowed him to control the opening laps completely. Meanwhile, Norris found himself in a recovery scenario far earlier than McLaren had anticipated. The pressure of the championship had influenced his decision-making, and that small lapse at turn 1 created the foundation for Verstappen's entire race. When the most important corner of the first lap is misjudged, the entire strategic plan collapses instantly. Once Verstappen controlled the opening phase, the race became a demonstration of strategic precision. Every front-runner started on the medium tire. The timing of pit stops would determine everything. George Russell stopped first on lap 18 for the hard compound. His steering issues were beginning to affect his pace. McLaren responded 5 laps later, bringing Norris in on lap 23 to avoid falling behind Russell. The crucial moment came with Verstappen's stop on lap 26. By extending his first stint longer than both rivals, Verstappen avoided traffic, protected his tire delta, and rejoined with his lead intact and tire temperatures already in the ideal window. Red Bull executed their plan with precision, a level of strategic calm that had been missing for months. Norris passed Russell on lap 34 and attempted to chase Verstappen, but it never developed into a real challenge. Verstappen's pace remained consistent, The gap stabilized at a level that made any attack improbable. And then came the radio message that ended any hope of a fight. McLaren informed Norris he needed significant fuel saving to reach the finish. From that point onward, Verstappen's lead steadily increased. The race wasn't defined by a single bold strategic call. It was defined by a series of disciplined decisions that prevented any of McLaren's attempts from influencing the outcome. It was Red Bull's most composed strategic performance in months. Verstappen crossed the line 20 seconds ahead of Norris. Dominant, controlled, unstoppable. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Norris strengthened his championship position despite finishing second. He extended his lead over Oscar Piastri and left Las Vegas with the larger strategic advantage. Piastri never recovered from the Turn 1 contact that dropped him into the midfield. He finished stuck in traffic, unable to challenge the podium. He now sits 30 points behind Norris and only 12 points ahead of Verstappen. Meanwhile, Verstappen keeps his championship hopes alive by increasing his total to 366 points. But he remains 42 points behind Norris with only 58 points left to score. The victory doesn't dramatically shift the championship outlook, but it preserves the mathematical possibility of a late comeback. And it sends a message. Max Verstappen can still deliver when the pressure is unbearable. But the deeper story is darker. Red Bull is still confused by the RB21. They're improvising setups. They're chasing performance blind. Yuki Tsunoda became a rolling experiment with new floor geometry and altered setup philosophy. It backfired so badly Red Bull had to apologize for big mistakes with tire pressures. Tsunoda started from the pit lane after sweeping power unit changes. That isn't championship structure. That's desperation. And with the 2026 regulations approaching fast, Red Bull doesn't just need a car, they need stability. And right now, the foundation is fracturing. Scenario 1. Norris maintains composure through Qatar and Abu Dhabi, and claims his first world championship, while Verstappen watches the dynasty crumble. Scenario 2. Verstappen wins both remaining races, Norris cracks under pressure, and the greatest late-season comeback in modern F1 history is written under the desert lights. Scenario 3. Red Bull's engineering exodus becomes the story, and 2026 arrives with Max driving a car built by strangers, fighting battles he's never had to fight before. Because dynasties don't fall from a single defeat, they fall the moment the structure beneath them starts to crack. Can Verstappen overcome a 42-point deficit with 2 races left? Or has this season already been decided? Will Red Bull's engineering collapse define their 2026 campaign before it even begins? And here's the question nobody's asking yet. If Max loses this championship, will he still be driving for Red Bull when the new regulations arrive? One thing's certain, Las Vegas wasn't the end of Max Verstappen's story. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. If you made it this far, you already know. This season's not about who's fastest. It's about who survives the chaos. So tell me, is Max Verstappen racing against Lando Norris, or is he racing against time itself?